Welcome to Watkins Glen International. It's been a little bit cloudy, a little bit rainy, a little bit of everything today in terms of weather. Getting set for the final Xfinity Series practice, if there are any takers from the Xfinity Series garage. Dave Burns with you, along with Jeff Burton, who's been the eye in the sky all afternoon here, watching what's been going on, or what hasn't been going on, rather. And Jeff, there's a chance we're going to see a couple of rookies out here, but I don't know that we're going to see any of the faster cars or the Cup drivers take to the track here, because it's still soggy.
I don't think they've changed their mind between the first practice and the second practice. We tried to convince them. Parker and I worked hard to convince some of the Cup drivers that they should be on track, but they're not listening to us.
Was there bribery involved at all?
No, there wasn't.
Okay.
I'm not opposed to it, however.
I was going to say, we have a chance here. No taker here.
Yeah, Brad Keselowski has decided he's not going to sit in that seat.
No taker with Ryan Preece as well, although he did get out in first practice.
He did.
Eric Jones, Christopher Bell in this car.
He made laps. Essentially, the rule is if you're a rookie, you have to be on the racetrack before the race starts. So, really, that's all we saw. We saw rookies go on the racetrack and kind of ride around, make sure they didn't make a mistake. Parker and I decided that was their goal, was to not come back with a wrecked race car.
Count your blessings and move on. Tyler Reddick was on. Was he on track?
He was.
We talked to him. I saw that part, yep.
He said in his interview, he said, I wasn't even pushing it, but he was the one that was sideways and all that stuff. That's Tyler. I like watching Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
His not pushing it is pushing it for other people.
There's Claire B. She doesn't take a break when it rains. She is talking with Justin Allgaier and Tyler Reddick, getting the scoop for all the shows that she does on Sirius XM. And as a team, Jeff, weather's looking quite a bit better tomorrow, so there's really not a whole lot of reason to get out there and do anything.
The only reason you would is because it may help you in the future. And I think that one thing that for me as a driver and as a guy that's owned some race cars, I think that there's always this balance between wrecking a race car in practice and what are you learning. And you know, from a learning standpoint, I think this was a great opportunity for some of the Cup guys to go out and learn, because this isn't something you get to test. When you go to a racetrack and it's raining, that's the only time you get to do it. Well, this was an opportunity for some people. Now, granted, you could wreck and you could have a problem, and they have a lot of road course racing coming up for these Xfinity teams. This is the first of many, and wrecking a race car really sets you back. So it's a difficult time for those guys to get into a wreck. But again, you know, they're professional race car drivers. They're not going to push it in an area that they probably shouldn't.
So let's get it down to the third member of our broadcast team here. It is Dylan Welch in the garage. Hey, Dylan.
Hi, Dave, and with Justin Allgaier. You've gotten taller since I saw you last.
Yeah, I'm struggling to hear you, but
I said you've gotten taller since I saw you last.
yeah, I figured it would only be nice to stand on something, since you are a little taller than me. We've discussed this before, though, and we drive open-wheel cars. You're a great wheelman in an open-wheel car, but I don't know how you fit, because I barely fit, and I'm quite a bit shorter than you are. So I wanted to at least get to your height today.
It's a little bit tight, I can tell you that much. So you haven't been on track yet. As a driver, when you go into a race, you haven't had to practice much at all or any at all. Does that make you more apprehensive going into the race, or do you still feel confident that you guys will be okay?
Well, I still feel confident. You know, the lucky part for us is we've had some experience here at tracks like Watkins Glen. I've been doing a lot of iRacing this past few weeks, just trying to get myself prepared. You know, these races they're interesting to say the least, because we're so used to running ovals that when you come to a road course, you know, you change everything. Your mindset, the way you attack the corners, your braking zone, everything's different. So I've been doing a lot of iRacing. I like the fixed setup on iRacing, so I get my butt kicked. I may have crashed a few times with some people, but it's all been in good fun, and we've had a blast, and it's been cool to interact. I think that's probably the coolest part for me, is just the interaction of being on there and being able to talk to everybody. So, you know, we have a work cut out for us. We felt like we had a good package here last year, and our Brand Fisher Agriculture Camaro was fast right off the truck. So, you know, we're hoping that, you know, when we have no practice like this, it kind of keeps everybody a little bit more on an even playing field, and we'll have a great shot at it tomorrow.
When you're on iRacing, how many times do you get beat?
All the time. I'm not a great sim racer. As much as I would like to claim to be, I'm not very good at it. But my problem is that I end up in the dirt like I end up going to the dirt races and running dirt races when I'm supposed to be practicing for this. So it doesn't work out as good as I'd like to. But I'm a lot better on the dirt than I am on the asphalt in iRacing. So either way, you know, like I said, the interaction's been fun. I feel like you learn a lot. You watch guys that are good sim racers, and they do things differently. But the concept of road racing is very, very similar, and a good road racer makes a big difference. And so, you know, I've been lucky enough to know guys like Ron Fellows that have helped out, Max Pappas, you know, road racers that have kind of dabbled in both, that are both really good, and they're able to come in and really help out with what we do. And I think that makes a big difference. It's no different than you. I don't know if your dad's here or not this weekend, but, you know, I've been watching up in the truck. You've been doing a great job. So I know he's probably watching, and he's realizing what you've done a great job on the broadcast side. And that's all from experience, right? You watch good people, you learn from them, and it makes a big difference. So really lucky that we have tools like iRacing nowadays and video and all the things that we have to make ourselves better.
Well, it's two guys trying to get experience. A little bit different forms, but experience nonetheless. Thanks, Justin.
Hey, Dylan, I was thinking, too, you guys could share a car in iRacing. There wouldn't be a size problem there.
Yeah, we could. There's no doubt. Dave said we could share a car on iRacing. Yeah, our sizes are different enough. Yeah, Justin agrees, Dave.
All right.
Thanks.
Very good. We've solved one problem for today. Burton, what do you think?
Well, listen, I stand on a box every week. Like, not with you. I don't have to stand on a box with
thanks.
you, but with
Rick, yeah.
Yeah, so Rick
Absolutely.
and Steve. That's the best thing about Junior being in the booth is I don't have to stand on a box next to him.
So we didn't promise there would be no takers. Joey Gase said, you know what? I'm going to get out there and I'm going to take this 35 car and get a little lap time on it. We saw Kaz Grala rolling down pit lane in the 61, so...
I think, too, it's interesting hearing Justin talk about iRacing and how he uses it. And we've heard that a lot today, that people are using iRacing a lot, especially before coming to road courses. And, you know, how beneficial is it? I think for younger people, I think iRacing is very beneficial. For a guy like me, I grew up feeling a race car. You know, what I saw was part of how I drove. What I felt was more. But I think the younger you are, the more effective iRacing is, because you're more familiar with video games and how you relate that to real life. And I always struggle with it. I'm a horrible iRacer. I'm horrible, but I'd be willing to bet that if all those iRacers that beat me on iRacing came and drove my race car, they couldn't come close to me. So but it's a generational thing. I think young guys, it works very, very well.
Well, the boxes they're checking off are timing and gearing and braking points and things like that are, I would say, more timing related than feel related, right?
Yeah, well, certainly. There's no feel to the iRacing, but it, without a doubt, it's useful. There's no question. We just didn't have it. You know, our generation didn't have it, so I didn't know how to use it because we didn't have it. And these younger guys, they're learning how to incorporate it into their preparation before race weekends. Kaz Grala, he's carrying more speed than we've seen most people carry through there.
We've noted before the schedule upcoming, the 7 races leading to the start of the playoffs for the Xfinity Series at Richmond include 3 road courses. So whether it's iRacing, whether it's Experience this weekend at Watkins Glen International, you've got Mid-Ohio coming up, the next race, and then a couple down the road, you've got Road America. It's diverse. You've got short track at Bristol, you've got Darlington, which is, I don't know what you want to call that. Indianapolis is completely unique. And then all the flair of Vegas, and of course that's surrounding the Cup Series playoff start. You've got that as a cutoff race for these guys. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And, you know, this series has been so much fun to watch. You know, the races that we've covered so far this year, every Xfinity race has been unbelievable. Last week's race in Iowa was fun. These guys are putting on great races. They're going at each other. And I have to admit, I understand Cup guys, you know, you need to limit the amount of racing that they can do in the Xfinity Series, but, you know, I did not believe the quality of racing would be better not having Cup drivers in it, but I was wrong. Without a doubt, the racing has been better, been more fun to watch. Now, are they learning as much without the Cup guys being in there? Probably not, but the racing has been fun to watch.
I'll tell you, if you want to learn something, you follow the guy who's standing by with Dylan this week, and that's A.J. Allmendinger.
Yeah, and Dave, we're just down here, we're talking about some dirt racing, actually. But
that's okay.
AJ, you're making your return to the Xfinity Series. Last time you were in an Xfinity car, you won. So how is this going to prepare you for this weekend on the Cup side, you feel like, if you get on track?
Well, I mean, right now it's not very good. I got my Aftershocks headphones on, so I'm just kind of singing and dancing in the rain. No, I mean, it's awesome to be back in the Xfinity Series for sure. Technically, I guess first time I could say Xfinity Series because it wasn't called that the last time I was in this. That's how long it's been. So, yeah, I mean, it's, you know, anytime you get laps on the racetrack, it's a good thing. I wish we were getting laps on the racetrack right now. It'll be interesting starting this cold turkey tomorrow, but it is what it is. Be the same for everybody, and we'll get after it. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for GMS Racing for allowing me to get the opportunity to do it and get back in this thing and hopefully go get a win.
As somebody like yourself with an extensive road racing background, what are the challenges that Watkins Glen presents?
It's a fast racetrack. You know, it's, you know, if you look at a place like Sonoma, it's real finesse. Here at Watkins Glen, you just get after it. You know, these Xfinity cars, especially through the S's, they're about wide open. So it's challenging. I love this place. It's always a huge crowd. Be the first time I've actually been here in Xfinity cars. So more laps is a good thing, and hopefully a trip to victory lane is just more confidence, more momentum going into Sunday.
Well, he's always good here on the road courses, guys. Excited to see what he can do this weekend in the 23.
Yeah, Dylan, fun to have him back. He will be one to follow, Jeff, one to, glean some information from if you have a chance to go over there and bend his ear a little bit.
And I would say that GMS, you know, this is an effort by GMS, you know, to put the best road racer in that car to give them a shot to win. I mean, if you're looking to come here and win a race, A.J. Allmendinger is a great pick, and it shows you where GMS is in their mindset. They have not been a leader yet in the Xfinity Series. In the Truck Series, they're doing very, very well. They want to make their mark in the Xfinity Series as well, and I think hiring a guy, you know, like A.J., that's showing, hey, we expect to come here and run well. We expect to come here and win. That's the kind of mentality it's going to take to you know, not just in building good race cars, but also in giving a guy like that a shot to come here. That's a great sign that GMS is heading in the right direction.
And even
that's nothing against any of their other drivers.
No.
But A.J. Allmendinger,
he'll push the equipment.
And yeah, and he can win the Cup race on, you know, he can beat Brad Keselowski. He can beat Kevin Harvick. He can beat Kyle Busch. He can beat those guys. So you're putting a guy in that race car, and you're going to learn about your team. You're going to learn the same way they know with Chase Elliott. They put Chase Elliott in that car as well. You're going to learn about your team by putting experienced drivers in that race car, and that's going to make your whole organization better.
Casgrala grew up doing a little bit of road racing, and I'm sure had a little bit of wet weather experience under his belt, so this is not unfamiliar territory to him.
Good to see them at the racetrack. They had to miss a race a few weeks ago due to
Yep.
lack of funding. Good to see them back.
Alan Tony Uri told me they had talked from the beginning. They're not going to do anything they shouldn't be doing financially with this race team in year one, and it was kind of a mid-season start anyway. And sure enough, there was a race that they didn't have fully funded. He said, "We're just going to stay home." That's okay.
It is okay. You want to have the funding to do everything, right? But if you don't, go ahead and accept it. And when you try to push it, and they've already pushed the barriers already, starting this team in midstream. I mean, they've already pushed it an unbelievably amount, and they've done a great job with it. But, you know, it's smarter just to accept the situation you're in and say, okay, for our overall health of our team and our company, we're better off staying home this weekend. It's a call you don't want to make, but having the guts and the courage to make that call, I think, again, we're talking about teams trying to build and get where they need to be. Those kind of decisions are the proper decision for a team like this. Trying to do more than you can do only makes the upcoming races worse. It's a good decision by them, knowing their situation. Not one you want to make.
Nope. But we sure appreciate the Casgrala show right now. It's been the only car other than Joey Gase on track during this session. And he's fastest.
They say it doesn't matter, but it does.
He's top of the board.
You always want to be.
What the heck?
You can see he's starting to work up to a little bit of, carrying a little more speed into the corner. This is the part that's sketchy, because if you make a mistake here, there's those great big blue walls on either side of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no escaping them. All the way up through the S's. Now you can start pushing a little bit. You can start working on your braking zone, getting into this inner loop, Dave, because if you miss it, if you overshoot it, then you just go straight. And you go straight through the runoff, and all it is pavement. So if you made a mistake here, you can just go straight, skip the inner loop, no harm, no foul. It's a good place to try to learn something about you and your car.
Let's head back down to the garage, and Dylan.
Well, and guys, we're down here with Ryan Truex, who, of course, is going to have our helmet cam tomorrow in the Xfinity race. Haven't made any laps yet today, though. Are you still optimistic about your chances going into tomorrow?
Yeah. I wish we were running laps, though. I'm kind of bored just sitting around. I really love this track, and I love road racing, so I was really looking forward to it. So hopefully this leaf filter car drives good tomorrow. I guess our first chance will be in qualifying, so putting a lot of trust in these guys, but I'm confident that we'll have a good car.
And you guys have leaf filter back on the car. It's always good to see them return, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a perfect day to talk about leaf filter since it's raining. Yeah, they picked the perfect race to get back on the car, but I'm excited for that. And it's always special to have Matt Collig's company on here and all the support he gives us. So we really want to give him a good run, and I love this track. Got my first ever NASCAR win here. Feels like 20 years ago in 2009. So yeah, I love this place and can't wait to get on track.
Well, and you had a good run last year in the K&N race before some unfortunate issues there set you aside towards the end. But I mean, what do you like about this place when you come back to it? What excites you about getting back on this racetrack?
Well, it's another one of my home tracks, so
you got like 10 of them, don't you?
Yeah, but I've been coming up here for a long time. I was in the S's in the stands for my brother's first Busch North race here, and lap 1, I think he started last. Lap 1, the whole field wrecked in the S's, and it ripped the whole roof off his car. He actually stood up straight out of his seat and walked down the hood of his car. And that's my first ever memory here. So, yeah, it's somewhere I've come for a long time, and see a lot of familiar faces up here, especially when the K&N series is here. So it's always special to come here, and getting the first win here was really special, and I'd love to add to it with an Xfinity win.
Well, hopefully your day ends up better than Martin's did a few years ago. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Ryan talks about 2009. He beat Matt Koboluk, Brett Moffitt, Patrick Long, and Matt DiBenedetto to the checkers that day in the K&N Pro Series.
Yeah, and the race last year they were talking about, he was leading the race and looked like to me, had a tire go away, and he hit the guardrail where we were talking about going up the S's, where there's blue guardrail on both sides, and when he hit it, he didn't just brush it. He destroyed that thing. It was a big impact.
Some scoop from Hemrick. They both are outside the race cars, not where they want to be.
Yeah, Hemrick, he last year, he started to show his improvements on the road courses. He started running really well. You see right here the playoff points.
Rather critical that he runs well on the road courses coming up, isn't it? He's got a good points lead, but I know he'd rather be in the green. Points lead, I say, over the cutoff line.
Yeah, he's in great shape. I think, really the 60 car, those guys are in great shape. The 16, he's in pretty good shape. But these road courses they're gonna play a role. And we saw a crew chief change on the 5 car this week. That's a change coming. We'll see, how that affects Michael and Ned. But made a change there. But road courses, you got 3 of their last races in the regular season, and that's almost half of them. So you better be a good road racer.
One of the rookies we did not see in first practice, Vinnie Miller, the 0-1 for Johnny Davis Motorsports, is on track now, delicately. And again, you see just over an hour remaining in this final practice if you should choose to take advantage of it. There's something we haven't seen in an Xfinity car in a long time, a moving wiper blade, Jeff.
Yeah. I don't know how much help they really are. I think in traffic, I think they can, move some water away, but it's a generous amount of Rain-X and that type of product being used this weekend.
So, Jeff, the road courses coming up are very different and then somewhat similar. Mid-Ohio, very technical, tighter, not as high speed, and then Road America, quite high speed in spots. What does this weekend add to your notebook in terms of the next 2 road courses coming up?
High speed, high speed, high speed. That's what this racetrack is. This is a super speedway of road courses. It's, you have this front straightaway, you have the S's going up in the back straightaway, then after the carousel going into 6 and 7. They're all long straights, very long straights, but heading to heavy braking zone. So you're going to find out this weekend how well your car brakes. Are people beating you on braking, which is the place to pass, right? If you can outbrake somebody getting in the corner, it's a huge advantage. If you can get a little bit of speed on them, leaving these corners and outbrake them, the spot's yours. So you're going to learn if your car has good braking. And it's more than just brakes and rotors and pads. It's also setup. Setup affects that, and driving style obviously affects it. So for me, Watkins Glen was always braking was always huge. And then right here, you can see where Vinny is so fast going up this hill, up through the S's. And if you don't hit it just right, they just destroy you down the back straightaway because they carry so much speed. And, of course, that leads into the braking zone. So high-speed corners are the most important ones here, and you'll learn a lot about how your car drives in high-speed corners and how it brakes in the low-speed corners.
Fun announcement this week for JD Motorsports. They will have teammate Catherine Legg coming up at the next 2 road courses, if I read that correctly. Catherine, a sports car and former open-wheel star, who will be making her NASCAR debut, and that'll be a lot of fun. Met Kathleen. It's a cross between Carolyn and Catherine. Met Catherine back when she was running Formula Atlantics. We were both in our formative years, Burton.
Oh.
And, she was doing a good job there, and I guess we figured we'd see each other down the line, and she's done very well. And well, I'm here with you in the rain at Watkins Glen, so
sorry,
be that what it may.
You've gone the wrong way. It's awesome to see drivers from other series come and run these Xfinity races, Cup races, truck races on road courses. Yep. It's fun to see them because they have knowledge that people that don't run road races a lot. They have that knowledge, but they don't have the knowledge with these cars. And so it's interesting. It's always an interesting cross between a good road racer and what they've been driving, and then trying to go and drive one of these. Because every guy I've talked to that it's a road racer, when they get in one of these cars, they're like, oh my God, these things drive horrible. Because they have so much power, but they weigh so much. And really the tires, relatively speaking, in the racing world for how much these cars weigh are small. So they're low grip, they have a high center of gravity, they're heavy, and they got a lot of power. So that makes them, they don't brake as well, they don't turn as well, they don't do anything as well as most cars that run on road courses. And that's the transition that a road racer has to make when they go drive one of these cars.
And if you are Catherine, you can come to a situation like this and you know your place. You've not driven these before, but you could say, well, have you ever considered or have you ever thought about? And there's a potential that a small team like JD Motorsports could learn a little something.
Exactly. And she will learn a lot. They will learn a lot. Good opportunity for everybody.
It's a good opportunity for us to hear from Dylan again. Hey, bud.
Well, Dave, I've found the most popular guy in the garage, and it's Mr. Rain Tire. So, as you can see, compared to the slick tire, obviously, like the rain tires on your passenger car, there's grooves and treads on these tires, and the grooves and the actual treads, they're pretty thick. I mean, from my finger, you can tell that those treads they're not small. They're thick treads. So, Jeff, I'll let you kind of explain the difference in feel and how you have to drive the car, obviously, just based on the different tire compound and what kind of challenge it presents to really drive in rain.
So, Dylan, one thing I want you to do is I want to take your fingernail and stick into each tire. So, right there, not in the groove, but on the surface of the tire, yeah, right there. And then do it on the other tire. And see how that tire is harder? You actually cannot get your fingernail stuck into that tire as far as you can in the other tire. So, the rain tire, obviously the grooves, that's to channel the water away. That gives a place for the water to go, so you have the flat surface of the tire on the racetrack. But that surface of that tire is also a much softer rubber. So it can be softer because in the rain cools it. The track doesn't have the grip. You're not carrying as much speed. All those things allow Goodyear to put a softer rubber on that groove tire than on the other tire. If the dry tire had that softer rubber on it, it would destroy it in a few laps in the dry. So that's the difference. It's softer and it has the channels for the rain to go, and that ultimately is what makes the grip. And I think Kaz Grala said, you know what? This is fun. I'm going to keep running. You can't make me stop. So So he continues to run, and he's run his fastest lap, that last lap, a 1:33. That was the fastest lap he's run, so he's continued to push the limits a little bit. And again, I say, why not? What's the harm? You know, what's the harm? I mean, obviously you could wreck the race car, but the lessons being learned right now by Kaz Grala, you never know when they're going to benefit you. You know, weather changes at racetracks, and you could wake up next week and it be raining on race day, and it was perfectly dry on practice day, and now he and this team both have learned something by running these laps.
I remember Mid-Ohio last year.
Yes.
Quite a bit of rain.
It rained a lot.
Yeah.
And the guy, one of the guys that had the most experience in the rain, right?
Yep.
He was fast all day. So how do you get experience in the rain? You run in the rain. And that's what Kaz Grala is doing right now.
Here's that channeling of the water out of the tires, Jeff, you were talking about. Pushing it out, and a lot of it running off the car, too.
So much water.
My goodness.
And it's worse with only one car on the racetrack. When you have many cars on the racetrack, a groove develops. We keep hearing people talk about dirt racing. Well, you know, grooves develop on dirt tracks that become the favorite groove. Well, the same happens on a road course when it rains. Is you're looking for dry. Anywhere dry is, that's where you want to try to find. And if there were 20 cars on the racetrack, they'd all be running in the same place because they're creating dry areas on the racetrack. And the speeds would go up as well. People would be able to push their cars more because the track would be in better condition.
See what's coming up on NBCSN this weekend.
A lot.
Yep. Another full weekend of racing, starting with Monster Energy Series practice tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Expected to be a little drier out here. We shall see. I'll join you for Xfinity Series qualifying at 11:30, and then on goes the day. Xfinity Series race, and then qualifying after that pattern we've gotten into a little bit, where the qualifying happens afterwards. And this weekend, they are teching the cars the next morning, Sunday morning. So that'll make things interesting. Here's what Sunday looks like. NASCAR America pre-race at 1, and they go racing at 3. A lot of camping out here, a lot of free daily parking. Of course, you pay a little bit for a camping spot if you want to stay here. The track expecting a sellout for the 4th year in a row, rain or shine, and fans that stay here certainly know how to enjoy it. And it's been fun, Jeff. Kind of the resurgence, one area in NASCAR that's been really, really good, the road courses. But this track in particular, they've attracted the crowds, and they continue to come, and they're expecting another, shall we say, slam-bang weekend of NASCAR racing. Usually is.
You know, really 2 weekends in a row. Last week at Pocono, the infield was crazy. It was packed with motorhomes, tons of motorhomes, and it has the same feel here, is that, you know, you have this fun party, kids everywhere. It's when you ride through these infields, Pocono here, it's so much fun. There's so much energy, and there's so many different kinds of people. But the thing that stands out to me is the number of kids that are at these events. School's out.
Yep.
Summer vacation. It's a lot of fun.
You know, kids drive NASCAR. You've heard that, right?
I do. I did hear that. I feel like a kid sometimes.
So is Ryan Preece. He's in the dream job that he has wanted all his life. Still competing in his modified. And this season getting a few rides in the Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota. There's some kids enjoying the day. There's another good look at Ryan.
Ryan's head to the hotel.
I was going to say, that's a casual look of I'm done for the day. And that's okay. He got his laps earlier. This is Spencer Boyd in the 76. Another one of the rookies who we would expect to see out here. Did we see Austin Cindric in the first?
We did.
Okay, so he's been out.
Yep.
Just going up the list here. Chad Fincham.
I do not remember seeing Chad Fincham, but
so
we did have a flurry of cars at once, and I could have missed him. I don't remember.
In the mist? You might have missed him in the mist. Very possible. Good-looking race car. Spencer has helped put together that sponsorship and a good partnership with the team. He's Joey Gase's teammate in the 35 car. Put those two together. Yeah.
You know what?
Used all that quarter, didn't he?
Well, so what's interesting is is that when you are running in the rain, see right here, he's not near the curb. You don't want to be on those curbs. The paint on the curb is slippery. The grooves in those curbing, you can hold water, so you don't want to be on that curb. And also, you really try to run offline, because where the cars normally run, there's a lot of rubber on the racetrack, and that water that's on the racetrack actually makes it more slippery. So as opposed to a dry condition, you'd want to be in that groove. When it's wet, you want to actually be off groove. Now, there are some places that becomes difficult, and you got to make a decision. Sometimes you have to give up some speed somewhere to make it faster somewhere else where you might want to be online. And I don't know how you run offline in that inner loop. I mean, I just don't know how you would anyway. But right now you see Spencer, he's not on the bottom of the racetrack. He's way up the racetrack, actually out of the groove on purpose.
23-year-old from Creve Coeur, Missouri.
Say that again?
Creve Coeur, or Creve Coeur, if you want to go French on that. St. Louis area.
There you go. I would have just said Missouri. There's Chad Fincham that you were discussing a while ago.
Right on cue. Way to go, Chad. Chad's fun. He's a short tracker. He embraces that and says the biggest thing about this year is just getting used to these tracks, these cars, and these speeds. And Watkins Glen is just another one of those experiences. And I think if it dries up for him, he's going to get the full experience.
It'll be way more fun in the dry.
Mm-hmm. The in-between, I was thinking about that earlier, and I just saw him kind of weave over a little bit, maybe to pick up a puddle. The in-between is one of the most intriguing things. If you get a track that starts out wet and then begins to dry out, and you've got those softer Goodyear tires, which everyone knows they're not made to run in the dry.
Yeah.
It's that whole decision-making process I wonder if we'll get into tomorrow. All right, let's find out what Kaz was doing, Dylan. Was it just, the Kaz show just because it was there, or are they doing a little testing for upcoming races?
Yeah, well, we'll ask him, Dave. Were you learning anything, or were you just more having fun out there?
A little bit of both. I mean, the forecast shows tomorrow's probably going to be dry, but just in case I find myself in an Xfinity car someday in the future when it's raining on a road course, I figured, well, we can go get some laps right now. NASCAR mandates that if you've never been to that track in that car before, this is my first time at the Glen in an Xfinity car, I have to turn at least one lap in practice, which means we had to buy rain tires. So I figured, what the heck, we'll get a few extra laps. So we got to shake it down a little bit, felt the gearbox, felt great, made sure nothing was falling off or rattling. So we accomplished that, and it looks like our work for today is probably done, unless anything crazy happens like it dries up right now. But no, we're satisfied with that. It was a clean run, and we'll put it up on stands now.
Well, what do you think going into tomorrow now? It's going to be dry. Don't have any laps in the Xfinity car on the dry track. What do you think?
It's going to be a challenge. I mean, this week already was going to be tough because the field is stacked with Cup drivers, so we knew it was going to be hard. And in addition to that, I've never been here in an Xfinity car, and a lot of the other regulars have. So it's going to be hard tomorrow, but hopefully we can figure it out in the dry. It's a long race, almost as long as the Cup race, which is different for us. So hopefully by stage 3 we can get it figured out, and that's when it matters. That's when we'll try to put ourselves in position to capitalize.
No doubt. Kaz Gralla going to try and have some fun tomorrow, guys.
Dylan, thanks. Yeah, he mentioned the length there, Jeff. 82 laps for these Xfinity cars, 90 for the Cup Series on Sunday, so not a huge difference.
No, it's really not. And I love the attitude. Hey, what if one day I'm going to run an Xfinity race in the rain? I just learned something. That to me is the right attitude. He also, he understands it's going to be a difficult weekend, and why not, buy a set of tires anyway, right? Why not go ahead and use them and learn something?
Crew Chief Shane Wilson says, thanks very much for the data. That's stuff they can write down.
And for not wrecking.
Yeah. Most importantly, these beautiful composite bodies that the cars are running now in the Xfinity Series, they will still, you can bend the stuff underneath if you get into the, as Jeff called, the blue walls surrounding especially the S's right here. Tommy Joe Martin's taking a few cautious laps in the 78 car. Not a rookie, so putting something in the notebook for himself, one would think.
Yeah, and sometimes maybe you just want to go out and just make sure shifter works, make sure that the car runs, that kind of thing.
Remember where the inner loop is and where to make your turns, right?
Don't want to forget.
Yeah, we can talk about the rule during the race. During qualifying, you certainly are, you have to, if you get offline there and you go through, straight through, you have to come to a complete stop.
Yep.
And then pick it up again. Same in the race?
Same in the race. Have to come to a complete stop, and if you don't,
penalty.
It's not going to be happy when it happens.
Nope.
It can happen on the last lap where NASCAR can't really penalize you, so they'll give you they'll add a time limit to your lap.
You say, wait a minute, I came across the line ahead of that guy, but I'm behind him on the finishing.
So I got a funny story for you, Dave.
That happened to you?
So there may have been this one time at Watkins Glen, where qualifying here was set up in groups by practice speeds, and you always want to be in the last group. So I was flirting. I was right there, 5th, 6th, 7th fastest. And I decided, well, what if I just go through the inner loop? But I don't want to make it look so much. So I kind of shot through the inner loop a little bit, made my lap. I think I was 1st or 2nd. And it moved me in, and nobody caught it. And I think after that, they put a spotter over there. Because the NASCAR spotter. Some other people saw it and they knew what had happened. I was in full denial mode, and I qualified in that last group. But, I don't mind stretching the rules a little bit.
It's the Jeff Burton rule instituted after that. We will have a NASCAR official over in the inner loop.
And what the bad thing about it was that I was, I was slower in qualifying than I went in practice, because in qualifying I couldn't run through the inner loop, and everybody wanted to know, well, why did you slow down? I said, because I didn't cheat this time.
These days you'd show up on Reddit.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, you'd be on Reddit. NASCAR would be all over you, but they weren't watching quite as closely then. Things have changed for the better.
The pride of Como, Mississippi, Tommy Joe Martins. Enjoying his time in the Xfinity Series, 31 years old in his 3rd season in Xfinity. Dylan?
Well, with Ross Chastain was out there in the inner loop, you were watching. What were you looking for?
Dry place to watch. Looking for maybe somebody with a hot dog or something to eat. No, it's just fun to get out there and watch these guys slide around. We're not going out. We don't have to. They're making all the rookies, which seems crazy to me that they're doing that. But that's the rules. So I guess tomorrow we'll have a practice. When we qualify is usually how they do it. So no, me and Smithley and my brother Chad, that's where he'll be spotting. So we were just going over things, how he'll spot for me and call me clear left and right. Just trying to pass the time, honestly. What have you been doing?
Trying to stay dry.
I saw you pointing at the tires, but we couldn't hear you. So
yeah, we were talking about the difference in rain tires and slicks. So, what as a driver, the difference in feel? Obviously, one's for the wet, one's for the dry. But the physical feel of the car when you're driving on rain tires, what does it feel like?
Terrible, so scary. Honestly, it's hard to comprehend. Like, it's hard to tell you in words. And even watching these guys out there on track, it's hard to describe how hard it is, and I only have one time in the rain, but working a little bit more with Chevrolet and Ron Fellows, getting ready for these races, he talks about some rain tires he's ran in the past and how good they were, and then I think he won in Montreal in 08, how terrible they were, like how they feel so old and they have just so much age in them. So that's what we're fighting, and it's just like ice out there. So hopefully it doesn't rain tomorrow. That's what I'm going with, and the radar everything looks good for tomorrow. So hopefully our Protect Your Melon car is dry tomorrow on track, and we can just have a good, solid race. That's stay on track is our biggest thing.
Well, you had a pretty solid one last weekend at Iowa. Tied your career best, finished 4th there. It feels good to come in with some momentum on your side, doesn't it?
It does, They're making faces behind the camera, but it does, and that's what we shoot for every week. Granted, we don't. I'm honest, I don't expect to go run 4th every week, but when those days happen, when the car is that good to run 6th, 7th, 8th, and then a couple of crazy restarts when we go up to 4th, that's awesome. That's really what carries us through the days where we finished 19th, because that's where we ran at Iowa 2 months ago. So with same car, same setup, like, you know, same stuff. So it's a tough deal. It's a tough sport, and it's a tough position where we race. It's not a lot of great days. It's just a lot of average days and a lot of bad days. So, you know, I guess maybe I should be an IMSA driver. You know, I'd probably be a little better if I had all their mapping and their anti-lock brakes and stuff. So I'm wearing all the stuff, thinking maybe that'd make me a better driver. But I know I better not go out there today.
Well, and we're entering a stretch on the Xfinity side where 3 of the next 4 races are road courses. As somebody on the playoff bubble, what kind of challenge does that present for you?
It's scary. It really is. I mean, we've done our job on all the ovals all year, maximizing our days. You know, even when we're going to be 15th, we can get to 13th and just score a couple extra points. Or when I crashed at New Hampshire, my guys somehow kept me going, cut away a ton of the body panels and the splitter bar. We wore all the way through the nose. The oil cooler was leaking. Like, somehow we finished that race and minimized our damage on the point side by finishing 26th, when really on a good – that day we were going to run about 19th, 18th. So it's really – we've done our job, and now it's like, how do you do your job still, right? I'm not good at road course racing. I can't tell my guys what I need in practice, and I definitely can't today with the rain. So even if it was dry, I struggle to tell them what I need in the race car when we're turning right. So it's just the basics, right? Just stay on track, stay on track. That's all I have to do. And then I think we'll actually have some speed once we get a dry track.
He's going to try and carry that good mojo from last week into this weekend, guys.
So he downplayed that finish last week, in my opinion. He, downplayed it. And, yeah, he didn't run 4th all night, but he ran very well. He ran in front of some very good cars, solidly a top 10 car last week. And you know, I appreciate the situation he's in, because they don't have the funding that Junior Motorsports has, that Joe Gibbs Racing has, that RCR has, Penske. They don't have that funding, but he doesn't race like that. He races like he does, and he belongs in that series racing. I mean, he does a very, very good job, and I thought that he downplayed a little bit too much that finish last week, because, yeah, they finished a little better than they ran, but they ran very well throughout the night.
Yep, 4-car was in the picture a lot, as we saw at Iowa. This is Mike Skeen, a teammate of Ross's this weekend. This will be the car that Catherine Legg will run in a couple of weeks. We mentioned that actually next week at Mid-Ohio.
So back to Ross Chastain, and it's so hard, I think, for people to understand that if you're driving for Penske, you can drive a certain way because you have equipment that will do certain things. When you don't have that equipment, you can't drive the way they drive, because if you do, you're going to wreck. Your car does not make the same grip that their cars make. And that's why, you know, when I look at a guy that runs 15th, 16th every week in the Xfinity Series, I don't look and say, well, that guy can't drive. I appreciate, personally, the effort of going out knowing they don't have the equipment that the winners are going to have. And that's harder than it is driving for someone that has great equipment. I'm telling you, it's harder to do. And I don't think, unless you drove a race car, there's no way you can have an appreciation for how much harder it is driving something that you can't win with. It's very difficult emotionally, and actually the physical part of doing it is harder than it is racing in the lead.
And we saw Ryan Preece run for Johnny Davis for a couple of years before he got an opportunity in one of the front-running cars at Joe Gibbs Racing and went to victory lane. It'll be the same sort of start for Ross, who competing in the Cup Series this year. I talked about it last week on the broadcast. He spoke with his Xfinity Series crew chief, Evan Snyder, about how much it's helped Ross being in that Cup car. And he said one of the things was something they don't even have in this car. It was the track bar adjuster he had in the cockpit, because he just learned so much more about what the car wanted, what he needed to give feedback-wise. It's made him better here.
I think the other thing is that when you get out of a Cup car and you go into an Xfinity car, everything slows down, because the Cup car makes more power, it goes down a straightaway faster, it enters the corner at a higher rate. When you go from there to an Xfinity car, everything slows down a little bit, and it allows you. I'm just telling you that when I drove Cup and I'd go run some Xfinity races, the Xfinity drivers have a major disadvantage. Because, number one, if I wreck, it doesn't matter. I'm not racing for points. I've already earned my spot, right? I'm driving for a
Yep.
big team. I've earned my spot. My career is based on Sunday, not Saturday. So if I make a mistake on Saturday, so be it. And that's a major advantage. It's the mentality of a Cup driver being able to attack the racetrack, attack the race. He can do that more than an Xfinity driver can. And he also he's coming out of a car that's approaching the corner faster. It's easier when you go from running a Cup car to an Xfinity car. It makes that Xfinity car all of a sudden drive much better.
You know what else makes a car drive better is when you have new sponsorship on it this week. Nice to see Mario Gosselin's 36, driven by Alex Labbe. Have a nice new look to it. It looks great.
I love that. I love the paint scheme. We talk a lot about paint schemes now that Junior's on our team. He's a paint scheme guy.
Yeah, that's right.
Loves paint schemes.
That's right.
This is a pretty car.
From Quebec, Pinty Series champion from last year. And he'll have some Canadian Maple Leaf fans in the stands this weekend. Always do here. And we welcome you guys. Keep it coming. So Jeff's looking at our entry list for tomorrow's race. Number of Cup Series drivers in there. When you count them up and you look at them as a group, who benefits most by running Saturday, in your opinion, for the Sunday race?
So I think Austin Dillon. I think he needs to continue to work to improve his road racing. I think he would agree with that. I think him running this race is a great thing. A.J. Allmendinger. You know, A.J. Allmendinger.
What? He's the best.
But listen, but yes, but he comes to Watkins Glen every year with this ridiculous amount of pressure on his shoulders. Like, okay, you got to get this car in the playoffs. This one race, it's got to happen. That's a tremendous amount of pressure to put on anyone, and it builds for the whole year. When the year starts, we're talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so is the team, and so does he know it. And I think that running the race on Saturday allows him to not think about it all the time. Just go race. Just have another car to go race. Spend some time driving something else. The first time you're in a car, unfortunately because of the rain, it's not the case, but the first time you're in a car is not going to be in your Cup car. I just think he doesn't need the track experience, but having something to just think about, to take away, to go race something else at this racetrack, I personally think A.J. Allmendinger will be benefited a great deal by running that race.
Fans hanging around, checking out final practice for the Xfinity Series. Just about a half hour left there, or nap time. Dylan, you make the choice.
Well, guys, one of the things I've always thought about is interesting about racing here at Watkins Glen is just the way that they pit the cars. It's off the right-hand side of the racetrack. You know, normally on the ovals we go to, you pull down to the left side, you make your pit stop. Watkins Glen, you pit to the right. The fueling rig is on the right. The crew jumps off the wall. They change the left side tires first. Jeff, is that as big of a deal maybe as it seems like it would be, or is it just another pit stop for the drivers?
It's different. There's no question it's different. And you know, you always, your mark is typically the signboard. You know, you hit your left front headlight with the signboard, where here it's the right front. And in addition to that, major difference at this pit road is that half of pit road, the whole pit road runs downhill, but about half of it runs way downhill. And so you really have to focus to make sure you stay on the brakes, because if you don't, the car just rolls just a little bit, and now the jack man, his timing's messed up, the tire changer's timing's messed up. So it's more than just pitting with the guys coming from the right. It's also the shape of this pit road that provides a challenge.
You never messed that up, did you?
Every week.
No, here. And with the hill and the differences, and oh, by the way, the guys are moving in a different direction.
The biggest thing for me, pitting here, and this sounds like a small thing, but everything has a rhythm to it. And when you put the car in gear, when you do those things, there's all the rhythm to it, and there's a right way to do it, and there's a wrong way to do it. The other thing that happens is They're typically are handing you something, a drink or whatever. A lot of times we come here, it's hot. Well, just a simple thing of having somebody having to get a drink to you through the right side window versus just handing it to you, those little things like that tend to knock you off your rhythm a little bit. So it's just the fact that everything's a little different, I think, creates an opportunity to make mistakes.
That's where we see so many races capitalized on and lost. The area of mistakes. Can you be consistent? Can you put together a perfect race? Because we say it over and over again, these races are hard to win.
And pit road, Dave, has, in my opinion, become more important than ever. I know that on Sundays we have 3 guys that are kicking everybody's butt. But it's super competitive, and it's hard to pass. And you come to a road course, and all those things magnify. It's hard to pass here as well. And so now you make a mistake on pit road, and you restart in the wrong line. So we're sitting there looking down the front straightaway. We're looking at turn 1. It's a 90-degree corner that goes downhill. We see restarts play such a huge role in how these races roll out. You have a mistake on pit road, now you're in the wrong lane, you're not in the road that you should have been in. Things just tend to magnify. We saw last week, pit road, the problems on pit road for Kevin Harvick started the day before. They sat on the pole, they got DQ'd, that took away that number 1 stall. If the 4-car pits in that number 1 stall and can roll at the end of pit road, he doesn't get in that wreck, he probably wins the race. Pit road plays a bigger factor in racing than it ever has.
There is pit road, 40 spots available, 42 cars on the entry list, so looks like we're going to have a couple of disappointed folks.
And that's made even more difficult by no practice.
Yep.
I mean, so now you got to roll out in round 1, right? Round 1, you got to roll out, you got to lay a lap time down. If you don't, you're going home. What's up, guys?
Best thing going on at the track right now. Kids are driving NASCAR because nothing's driving for NASCAR right now.
These guys are the show.
They are, and they know it too. They're like, hey, stand by. You can swing the camera over here. Yeah, you guys should be looking at the app. Come on, guys. Pull it up on the phone. Oh, Captain America is here. I wondered what his schedule was like. He is here this weekend, and he's in Section 3 at Watkins Glen. Dude!
He's on the gas. Whoa! Oh, man down. They want to see some race cars.
Yes, they do. They love the sound.
Here in a little while, Dave, they're going to hear it. There's a K&N race scheduled for this afternoon. And whether it's raining or not, they're going to have a race.
You know what? If it's not raining, you can make it rain. Owen Larson proved that last week. He saw one of our cameras on the back of a car, and he said, "Yep, this is a robot. I like robots, and I'm gonna try to make it move, and I'm gonna smile at it, and then I'm gonna give it a raspberry, and then watch this, Dad. Mm-hmm. Yep, and that's not all I got. Wait, there's more. Yep, knock a big loogie on it.
So." These are all things that we wish we could do, but we can't because we're in our older age. But he can get by with this.
When you see NASCAR, and I was standing there getting ready to interview Kyle, that's why I was in the shot. But talked to Kyle about that this morning. He said, yeah, we had a long talk about the spitting this week. You'll see that on NASCAR America later today. Dylan?
Well, we caught up with Mike Shiplett on the 42 car, and I know you guys haven't been on track yet today, but strategy-wise on a road course, how is that different than what you do on an oval?
Well, there's a lot of different ways you can play the strategy. You know, you can get out of sequence early, try to get clean air, see how your car is to better yourself for the end of the race, or you can pit on the stages and try to get out of sequence at the end of the race. It just depends on how your car is running, where you're running at.
And you're kind of in a unique situation this year in that you're working with a handful of different drivers. Does each driver require a different strategy perspective in your mind?
I wouldn't say a different strategy. Each of the drivers like something a little bit different, but the base, they want to go fast and one turn left and right here. But, all in all, it's just small tweaks here and there that we've learned with John Hunter and with Kyle, going through this year so far.
Is that something that you just have to learn the more you race with them, or is that something that you as a veteran crew chief just kind of understand?
Well, we understand the differences, you know, what each driver wants, and just working with them and trying to fine-tune what they're looking for in the car.
All right, well, thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Stay dry today.
Thank you.
For Sunday, Larson is 8th in the playoff standings. He's got a nice, healthy 186 points to the cutoff line there. This would be a nice chance for him to get some experience on Saturday and help his 42 team on Sunday as well. It's a good look at the S's going up the hill there. This great shot, Jeff, you've watched it from first practice. A nice run up the hill, the back cam.
This camera is awesome. I was standing on those grandstands a little while ago watching K&M practice and watching that camera run up the hill, and that's going to provide some cool shots. You can see the water running across the racetrack right there. So camera's going to keep moving up. Not quite going to get there, but those are things the drivers are looking for in wet conditions. Is, you know, they're looking for dry lanes, and you'll have a dry lane, but then all of a sudden water's running across the racetrack where you can't see, and you get to it, and all of a sudden there it is. So, you know, again, the track is ever changing in these conditions. There you go. See all this? See all the water running across the racetrack?
Got the telestrator there.
Yeah, I'm going to walk over here. So right here, that's a pretty line, wasn't it?
That was good.
That you know, all this is dry. When I say dry, relatively dry. But right there, you have this weeper. You know, it's dumping from the infield onto the racetrack, and that's something the drivers will have to, you know, if it was racing today, you'd have to pay attention to. So maybe your line looks like this, you know, not like that, but you run away from that big water spot.
I bet you if you try it again, he'll keep it there for you.
Oh, I'm not doing it again. I gave him a shot. He cut me off.
That's how you work with the director from the booth. Same page. That's what team's all about, isn't it? No, it looks good. And so other places around the track, similar situation. You see right here coming to the start-finish line. That one's running straight across.
Yeah, so it's not raining now. The rain has stopped. And so if a lot of race cars were on the racetrack, you start seeing this drying happening quickly. You know, no one's going to run. Obviously, we see that. You know, very few people are decided it's in their best interest. Timmy Hill's out there now, but you know, this is the time you'd want to run, because we saw how much water was coming from behind the cars earlier as opposed to right now. There's really not that much. It's just no rain, and that's one thing that's so difficult about racing is that keeping up with the track. And so imagine qualifying. This is where I don't like racing in the rain. I think it's fine in the rain because everybody's on the racetrack at the same time. But in qualifying, if it quit raining, the advantage for going later would be so great that it wouldn't be fair. And so I'm not a big fan of qualifying in the rain. Racing's fine, but queue in rain is not a good thing.
In the racing situation, NASCAR will deem whether the conditions are damp or wet. Now, if they're just damp, they may give the teams the choice to put on the rain tires, but if they call it wet, then it'll be everyone come in and everyone change. And then after that, it'll be back to choice.
Yeah, I think I like it at this level when we don't have a lot of experience. I like NASCAR making that decision. I think throwing the caution and saying, hey, we're just going to rain tires or we're going to slicks. I think it's better if NASCAR can make that decision. In my eyes, we just don't have enough. We don't do it enough. We don't race enough road races. I just think you should take it out of the team's hands.
And that's at least for the initial. And then later on in the race, if things change again, they don't undo that call. They just let the teams do what they will. Saw that a couple of years ago at Road America where it dried up. There were some babying the rain tires, and there were others who put on the slicks and said, let's go.
It's hard for NASCAR to get in the middle of it in the middle of a race because what if somebody pits 2 laps earlier? How do you prevent that from happening? When would you shut pit road? That's difficult for them to do. But prior to the race, it just should be a NASCAR decision.
3-stage race Saturday for these Xfinity Series drivers. 20, 20, and 42 will be the lengths. And you can go 34, 35 laps on a tank of fuel. When you take your fuel and tires, that's where the strategy comes in.
And we'll see the field mixed up. We'll see, you know, that caution come out just at the wrong time or the right time, depending on if you pitted or not. And now all of a sudden you know, now you're leading the race or in the top 3 or 4 or 5 because you pitted before the caution came out, and maybe the best cars are back there in 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. And happens so many races here where the field just gets completely mixed up.
This race last year had a green flag stretch, a 34 lapper from lap 44 to lap 77, and that shook a few things up. There's one earlier that I think fell right when people needed it to, but it's the ones that don't make it so interesting.
Yeah, many times here in Indianapolis, Pocono, big racetracks, you actually want to pit and you want the caution to come out. You know, at smaller racetracks, you pit on the green, the caution comes out, you're stuck a lap down. But at this racetrack, it's big enough where you can be a reasonable distance behind the leader, pit, and then you hope the caution comes out, because the people that didn't pit will have to pit under caution, and you pass them and restart in front of them. That's the best case scenario, and you know you're having a lucky day when that happens.
Mm-hmm.
I've had that work for me, and I've had it work against me.
And that's what racing's all about.
Yep. But the other interesting thing that, from a strategy standpoint, that becomes so difficult for the crew chiefs is because you do want to pit, is how many cautions do you think you're going to get? So if you wait to pit your last pit stop when you know you can make the rest of the way on fuel, somebody has decided we're going to take a gamble and let the number of cautions that happen later determine if we can make it or not. And if you don't hit pit road and gamble a little bit, you probably stand a less chance of winning the race.
By the way, I had this nagging suspicion in my head after we talked about Mid-Ohio last year. It was 2 years ago that Justin Marks won in the deluge. But I'm thinking as I watch more and more teams just go out and get a little bit of wet experience here, they have that in the back of their mind. Remember what happened 2 years ago at this next race. We might want to be prepared. And it could be as simple as something as, is the car watertight, right? Sometimes there are places where it's gushing in and you don't get out there and test it in the wet, you wouldn't know.
Yeah, no fogging up of the window. That's a pretty car, too.
Man, missing some tires and wheels, though. Austin Cindric went out earlier in this 60 car for Roush Fenway Racing. Put down some good times. Driver who's run a lot of things everywhere. Speaking of new experiences, Roush Fenway recently had some special guests at their headquarters in Charlotte. They hosted Premier League powerhouse Liverpool on their preseason tour of the U.S. The racing team taught their Fenway Sports soccer counterparts what it takes to change tires on their stock cars. And the Reds also had a friendly to see who could do it best. And I'm saying probably the race team did it better, but they wouldn't stand a chance on the soccer field, I'm sure. Premier League, Liverpool arch rival Manchester United helps kick off the new season as they take on Leicester City. Join Rebecca, Kyle, and the two Robbies from Old Trafford Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern live on NBCSN. I'd like to see Cindric on the soccer field. I think he'd be pretty good, actually. Good athlete. Speaking of athletes, yes, there it is. Jarts, can you still get those?
These are probably lead.
I thought those were
sharp.
Outlawed.
Yeah, these are not politically correct at the moment. I guarantee you they're lead and sharp.
Uh-huh. And we grew up with these, and we're still here.
Oh, and we threw them at each other.
Yes, we did.
Run!
You're supposed to hold the ring. Huh?
I'm the youngest of three. Oh, yeah.
You held the ring.
I can dodge some of those things, man.
Then this is a little bit more tame and better. Oh, come on, man. Need a little ultimate out there. It is so green around here. You can tell it's rained a lot, including this weekend. It is so lush.
Look at this.
And then there's hula hoop.
We've got all kinds of games going on.
I'm telling you, not her first time doing that either.
We do. This is the home of the Olympics. You know, so we can do yard darts, hula hoop, and frisbee.
Frisbee, yep.
For this year.
And then there's relaxing. She's got the app going there. She's going to see herself here in a sec. Yeah. Say, sweetie, you're on TV. Hey, that's right. Having a good time here at Watkins Glen International. They used to race in the streets of downtown. That's where it all got started here. Built a permanent facility up on this beautiful hillside back in the 50s and went professional racing. And it has been a must-do on the bucket list for so many fans since. And a lot of drivers, too. They hold a lot of different kind of races here. And I know a number of drivers who have just hoped someday to get to Watkins Glen.
She's still going. Is this Is this an attempt at a world record?
If NASCAR America has taught me one thing this week, it is that you can set world records in a lot of stuff. Martin Truex Jr. and his radio-controlled boats, I believe it is 13 world records.
So I've learned in NASCAR America the last several weeks
Hula
that
hoops,
Kyle Busch took photography in high school.
Okay.
And that a lot of the pictures you see on Samantha's social media, he does.
All right.
I learned that. I learned that Martin Truex Jr. has records and with his remote control vehicles. I had no idea these things.
You can just tune in 5 p.m. weekdays and you'll find out a lot of things. See you, folks.
That's a great seat.
No doubt.
Right up in the S's.
Absolutely. So many of the venues now putting the fans as close to the action as they can with a chance to get some food and beverage during the race. Great way to come out and see NASCAR. And if you bring your own house, you can stay the whole weekend.
Well, when the rain quits and the sun goes down tonight, it's going to be fun to roll through there. It's always fun to go. He's got some music going.
Got it going already.
Okay. What do you think he's listening to?
It's got to be heavy.
Wait, heavy what? Is he a country guy? Is he a hard rock guy? Is he a hip-hop guy?
He's reminding me a little bit of James Hetfield from Metallica. Yes, thank you. I couldn't pull it there for a second.
I know they're a little confused because they had a Ford flag and a Dale Earnhardt Jr. flag, so there were a little bit of confusion.
Just covering all the bases. Yeah. In case you get a Ford or a Chevy driver roll by, you just hide the one for a second. All right, then. So now's when you go to the golf announcing voice. And you just mentioned that the boys have been coming to Watkins Glen since the mid-'60s in this very camper. And back to, I think she's texting Jeff. I'm not sure she's on the app because she would have realized by now that we're cutting back to her shot again here. Got some Snapple going on there. Something in the drink holder there. Don't know what that might be. A little water there.
Somebody's telling her.
Hey, Jeff. Well,
they're busting on her.
Your son.
No more texting. Sorry, Dylan. We're watching Daughter in action. Go ahead, bud.
Okay, before you start, so whenever somebody says your son, and that's all I hear, I'm waiting for something not good.
Well, no, this is all good. I was just going to ask. Harrison was on track earlier with the K&N car. He's getting ready to hopefully race in the dry later on this afternoon. But what did he tell you? What did he learn?
He learned that.
By the way, that's champion Harrison Burton of the K&N Pro Series East.
So the K&N situation is a little different because the weather, we're not 100% sure what's going to happen later this afternoon, and they race this afternoon. So everybody went and ran, and many of those guys, a lot of young drivers, first time ever in the rain, and some of those guys first time ever at Watkins Glen. So then you have Eric Jones in the race, you have Bubba Wallace in the race, you have Noah Graskin is in the race. So there's some Cup and truck guys in the race as well. So what he learned was that he's run here a couple of times, running in the rain. He learned a lot. And our colleague Parker Kligerman talked to him some about racing in the rain. So it was a very, very good 90-minute session for him because, like we've talked about, when else will he have a chance to be in a rain situation? And just a good opportunity for a lot of young drivers to learn.
I'm sure from time to time you work on Harrison's racecraft with him. Road course-wise, what have you guys talked about?
So it's pretty similar road course. I just tell him, don't do what I did. That seems to be the most effective.
You weren't horrible.
No, I was okay. Yeah. But I wasn't good.
There were better.
You're racing against, the thing is, you can be really good but not good enough in that series. And you're racing against some incredibly talented race car drivers.
Now, help me out a little bit. Is he running a truck at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park? Is this a warm-up for that? One of the reasons why he's running this weekend?
Well, when we look at his schedule, mostly in providing opportunities to grow as a driver, and Watkins Glen is one of those places that we think is very difficult, challenging. Obviously, he's an aspiring he wants to be a race car driver and to do it for a living. And if he is, that means he'll be racing here. So it's an opportunity for him to get some laps at a racetrack that he would be on. So we look at his schedule in regard to that. We're not racing for points in anything this year, although he will run the majority of races in the truck, in the 51 truck, and that truck is racing for the championship. So he has the majority of the races during the playoffs.
Very important to the
team.
Yep.
Starting in Canada.
Yep, there you go.
That blue guardrail, the one on the right.
Oof. I remember some
trouble from time to time.
Get a little offline right before that, and comes up pretty quick, doesn't it?
It's so fast. I mean, we're looking down. That's turn 6 closest to us, the next to last corner, and you're looking the corner a long way away from us is that carousel, and it's a long right-hander, and you can see it's downhill. So you're flying through there, and then you come use all that racetrack on the right, and it's just so fast. And if anybody has a problem there, you're going so fast, it's hard to miss it. We've seen some huge wrecks. Unfortunately, I was in one of them leaving the carousel. This is looking the opposite way, 180 degrees different, down the straightaway now, and it is crazy. And you see that curb on the left side, they'll have all 4 tires on the other side of that curb, just because you're trying to carry so much speed off of that corner. It's an awesome racetrack. It is. There's so much history here. We went into Watkins Glen last night and had dinner, and this town embraces the history. They used to run on the streets here, and it's just a fun weekend. So much history and heritage, and this town embraces this racetrack.
Here's what tomorrow looks like on the network. And by the way, you're going to have a vantage point somewhat different than normal this weekend?
I do. This is the second year that we've done our radio style of broadcast. So Mike Bagley from MRN, he's in the S's. He does it way better than we do, by the way. He's got that radio voice, and he's in the S's. And then last year, Parker Kligerman was at the carousel in the inner loop, but this year he's racing, and Dale Jr.'s going out, so he's going to be on the racetrack over there. And then I'm in 6, and I can see the back straightaway. That view that we were looking at a little while ago,
right,
that's where I am. So that's where I call the race from. And then the front straightaway, we have Rick Allen and Steve Tart in the booth where we are today. So we have the racetrack covered, and of course you'll be on pit road telling us all the fun stuff down there.
I will.
It's a fun week. It's a really fun week. Doing something different. We've done a lot of different things this year, haven't we? And
yep.
But what's been so much fun about this year is the racing has been really, really good. We've had some great races to cover.
Also looking straight across at the Peacock Pit Box, which is right in the middle of pit road. That'll be occupied throughout various points of the weekend. And with practice winding down here and no cars taking to the track, we're going to say so long. These folks are already waving goodbye, and by the way, telling her kids driving NASCAR, you're on TV right now. Yes. Love it. Hey, thanks for joining us here this afternoon. Had a few cars on track, 9 to be exact. Mike Skeen was the quickest in final practice in the 15 car for Johnny Davis Motorsports. We'll see you later on NBCSN. Appreciate you tuning in. Bye-bye.